We are living through a childhood anxiety epidemic. Our children have never been so anxious. We've lived through over 10 years of austerity, which has seen support in schools and the NHS for our children just disintegrate. And then there was the COVID-19 pandemic and lockdown, which has left many children with scars to their mental health. And most recently, we're going through a cost of living crisis, which inevitably is going to impact children. A few generations ago, I would say if your child was feeling anxious, go and speak to your GP or maybe find them a therapist. But the reality today is that most children's health service or mental health services have waiting lists of maybe years. And in this economic climate, it's very difficult for people to find the money to pay for private therapists. The good news is that a lot of healing can happen in the parent-child relationship. As parents, we actually have more power than we realise. So my daughter has struggled with her mental health for a very long time, and we have been very fortunate in that we've been able to access some specialist funding sources, so she has been able to see therapists. But they've been really mixed. So our first therapist was, quite frankly, a bit of a disaster. She just didn't really seem to get my daughter, and the strategies she was working with were just weren't working for us. And I could see that they were actually doing more harm than good, and I had to abruptly end the sessions. Then we had another therapist who was actually much better, and she did help a lot. But after a while, I realised that what was happening was that she was showing me things in the session, and then I would take those ideas home and implement them at home. And it was really in the home where the change was happening, not in those very expensive sessions. So they were really good for a while, but after some time, I realised that we probably could just do this alone. And that's really what I have been doing ever since. However, I did have one other thing, and that was a parent coach. This was someone who was a parent to children with additional needs themselves and had years worth of experiences. And we would check in once a week or once a fortnight, and sometimes we would brainstorm ideas, and sometimes he'd share things that he had tried with his children that had worked. And sometimes I would come to him going, I'm thinking about doing this, what do you think? And this has been such a valuable relationship, and I just feel that both myself and my daughter have really benefited from it. And my daughter's change, I mean, she's gone from a child who would have 5 or 6 meltdowns in a day, each lasting about half an hour. Now the meltdowns happen 2 or 3 times a year. I mean, she's not fixed, she still has problems, but she's also so much more aware of herself. I mean, her emotional intelligence is incredible, and she now will tell me what she needs from me to help her feel better when the anxiety is getting really out of control. The huge help that I've had from a parent coach is what led me to being here today, talking to you and wanting to offer you the same, because I know there isn't really much else out there. And actually, this is really powerful approach. So one of my reactions to the stress that I've been under in parenting a child with additional needs is to just go research crazy. This is how I deal with my own anxiety. I research the hell out of everything. So I've read so many books, and I've been on so many courses and trainings, and obviously all the time that I've had working with therapists. And I've pulled all that experience together, and I now want to offer that to you. So I don't offer one parenting approach, because with all my research, what I've found is I don't think there is a one size fits all. Instead, I like to offer a pick and mix approach to parenting. And I would like to offer you free 20 minutes coaching one-to-one with me, where we will work out what items from that pick and mix are going to work for you and your family. Now, there's a link in the description so you can book in a free call with me. But I want to just take a moment now to explain exactly what the framework of my approach is. So I see there being 3 pillars of SEN parenting. So the first pillar is you. You need to be looking after you. And that's not just because you matter, of course you matter, and your mental health matters, because how can you be there for your child if you are falling apart? But it's also because stress is contagious. Studies have shown that the stress levels in a parent are replicated in an infant and child. So if you're not dealing with your stress, what you'll likely be doing is passing your stress on to your child. And I don't mean that with any blame, it is just something that happens naturally. But I do say it as something that needs to be addressed. You need to be dealing with your stress. So there are lots of ways to do that. And again, there isn't a one size fits all, and you will need to work out what works for you. But I've got lots of ideas I can share with you, from journaling to getting out in nature to maybe having your own therapist if that's what you feel you want to do. One of the most successful methods I've used is tapping, which mixes the Chinese ancient medicine tradition of acupuncture with Western psychotherapy. And I've got a video which I'll put a link to at the end of this one, which will explain tapping more fully and how it works and what the science is behind it. But one of the things I really love about tapping is how quickly you can use it and how quickly you get results, because I know that you have no time. So you don't have the time to do hour-long yoga routines, or maybe you don't have the time to go to see a therapist. I know I used to see a therapist, and fitting it in my schedule was one of the hardest things. But tapping, you can get radical results in less than 10 minutes. So check out the link at the end if you want to find out more about that. The next pillar of SEN parenting is your child. Now, one of the things about children is when their behaviour is worst is often when they need us most. But it is also an opportunity, because through that behaviour, they are communicating to us what they need. Now, as I said, I don't have a one approach fits all with this. I draw from many different traditions, including MVR, which is non-violent resistance parenting, to various parenting, therapeutic parenting approaches like PACE and the Great Behaviour Breakdown. And in a one-to-one coaching call, I can go through some of the ideas that I think would work with your child based on their history and things you've already tried. But every approach that I take is therapeutic, and it moves away from more traditional approaches such as rewards and punishments, which actually, when you understand the neurobiology of children, just actually don't make any sense at all. I also recommend tapping for children. So I encourage you to use tapping on yourself first, and when you are calm and when you're ready and confident in using it, it's also a great technique to use for children. And again, there's a link in the description, there's a video at the end of this which will explain more about tapping. The link at the end of the description is for the parent coaching. So the third pillar of SEN parenting is community. Now, you cannot do this alone. That is absolutely 100% true. And you may be a lucky individual where you came to parenting with a really established support network. But I'm guessing that there's a high chance that you may have seen that support network crumble over the years. And that might be because your family and your friends didn't understand your child's behaviour and were critical of the approach that you were taking to managing the child's behaviour. If this has happened to you, you are not alone. This is extremely common. Sadly, the best support comes from people who are walking the same journey as us, and that might mean reaching out and finding new friendships. Now, there are lots of different ways that you can do this. You might want to speak to the Senko at your school and ask to be put in touch with other parents with children with special educational needs and disabilities. Or you might want to connect through your local parent carer forum. I've developed lots of great friendships through that method, and these are now people that I check in with on a regular basis, and it's a mutual, reciprocal, supportive relationship. Sometimes I check in with them just to offload because I've just had an awful day dealing with various authorities who are meant to be supporting me and they aren't. And sometimes I check in with them on very practical terms. I'm currently going through a legal case and an appeal at the Sen Tribunal to make sure my daughter gets the support that she's meant to be entitled to. And I know other parents who've been through this before me, and so I'm asking them questions about, okay, at this stage, what should I expect? What happens next? That support is so important, and I really urge you to seek it out. So, if you are struggling right now, I really encourage you to reach out. And that includes people who may be on a waiting list for a diagnosis, or someone who's just got their diagnosis or their child's diagnosis, and you're not sure where to go next. So use the link in the description and get in touch with me. Book your free 20-minute consultation. At the end of that consultation, you will have a choice. You can either continue to work with me, and for that there will be a charge, or you can decide, no, I don't think this is for me, but you will still walk away with a strategy that will help you with your parenting. So please get in touch. I'd really like to chat and help you on this complicated but often hugely rewarding journey. Dealing with a child who has anxiety is incredibly hard. I hope that video gave you a bit of hope and maybe a few ideas to try out. I mentioned a couple of other videos that I have that I think you will also find useful. So there is one about tapping, which will go into what this is all about, how it works, what the science is, and just demystify the whole thing for you. And the other one is about sensory difficulties in your child and how you can calm those. So those are both here. And if you click on these links, you can have a watch, and I hope you find them useful.